what's your view on this vote in Hong Kong? Is it positive for markets when it comes to the long term, or will we just have to wait and see? And could this perhaps be a bit of a sugar high that we're seeing on the Hang Seng today?
I think largely it's symbolic in terms of, if you look at the sort of sway and how these districts have a say in terms of who is the sort of chief executive of Hong Kong, it's actually relatively immaterial. So the key thing you can take from this is, despite all the violence that we've seen in Hong Kong, largely speaking, the public are still backing this pro-democracy movement. And I think for global markets, it isn't something that will actually feed back into them. It's quite a contained issue. The larger picture really is how this feeds back into the trade negotiation between the US and China, I'd say.
Yeah, I'll leave that question for Hadley, because I know she'll want to ask you about that. But does it alter your strategy when you look at Asia-Pacific markets? Because over the last few weeks, we have seen sentiment more broadly across Asia dented slightly by what's been going on in Hong Kong, and we have seen some sizable declines on the Hong Kong market, especially given the standoff at the university and everything that ensued over the last few weeks or so. Does it alter your perception of trading in the Asian markets more broadly?
It doesn't really. I mean, I think where you're seeing sell-offs in Asia on the back of some of these headlines, it's largely an opportunity to buy the dip if there are names in and around Asia that are being impacted by this. Because, as I say, I really think it's something specific to Hong Kong, sectors inside that, whether it's the business or consumer side, but other names in and around Asia. This really is just sort of a sideshow, I think, for the sort of the global earnings backdrop that they're trading on.
Geoff, it's Hadley out in Abu Dhabi. I want to pick up on what Matt was saying a little bit earlier about the U.S. China trade spat. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got essentially the Congress coming out, bipartisan approach here, essentially condemning what's been happening in Hong Kong. They say that Beijing needs to back off. The president coming out and, quote, saying, I have to stand with Hong Kong, but at the same time, I'm also standing with the leadership in Beijing. He literally said Hong Kong would have been obliterated in 14 minutes, if not for me. That was the president speaking there. So one wonders how this leaves the United States when it comes to these U.S.-China trade negotiations.
I think a different way to look at this is, what's quite positive here for Donald Trump is that he's actually for once looking like the good guy from a Chinese perspective. So as you say, you've got bipartisan approval from the Republicans and Democrats that this Hong Kong bill will allow an annual review of their trade relationship with Hong Kong. And you can see in the language that Trump's using that he's having to acknowledge it, but at the same time, as you said, he's caveating it with, you know, I can see where Xi is coming from and he's a great friend of mine. So in that regard, he's actually sort of getting another pawn that he can use in the negotiations with the Chinese and Xi, because to be honest, if we can get another Trump-led administration for the next 4 years, it would probably be preferable for China than someone, say, Elizabeth Warren, who may be willing to use this bill in more earnest.
Hey everybody, it's Hadley Gamble from our new CNBC Middle East Bureau in Abu Dhabi. Thanks for stopping by. Now, to watch more, you can try one of the videos that just popped up on your screen. And don't forget to subscribe.